suspect!
Coming to get you, Bobber.
Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Hellraiser 4 Bloodline, or Hellraiser Bloodline, depending on where you're from. There is going to be spoilers in this review, guys, so if you haven't seen it, maybe don't watch it, but if you don't mind spoilers, and because it is an old movie, who really cares, continue watching. From here on out in my Hellraiser reviews, guys, this will be the first time watching these Hellraiser movies. I only ever saw the first 3 movies before doing these reviews again, so this is a first time watch from Hellraiser 4 onwards, and I avoided them for a good reason, obviously. Now, when I started watching this one, I didn't even realise, and probably should have because of the poster, but this was set in space. Not all of it was set in space, but quite a good chunk of it was set in space. And as with any franchises, when a horror movie starts moving into space, then you know there's problems, and they start that pretty early on in the Hellraiser franchise. So we've got a movie set in space. It's set in 2127 as well. That's a really random year. The film came out in 1996, I believe. Usually when you set a film in space, they set it with a specific date, like, I don't know, 2096, 100 years after the movie came out. So to set it in 2127 was just pretty random, to be honest. Not only was the film set in the future and set in space, it was also set in the past as well, which was maybe a welcome change, because when I first saw it was set in space, I was like, oh. But then when they went back into the past to explain the origins of the box in France with a young Adam Scott as well, I liked that part of the story more than the futuristic parts. I think it's because we know what happened in the past and we know how people dressed and the technology that they had. So it was more believable watching a movie set in the past. But when you watch films that were made in the 90s set in the future, everything that you're looking at is so outdated, even to today's standards. You know, you're looking at things in 1996 that are supposed to be over 100 years later, and you're like, nope, that'll never happen. Nope, that's outdated already. So when you're futurising your movies, you're already setting that example that in 10-15 years time your movie's going to be out of date. As well as Adam Scott, we've also got that Meryl Streep woman who was in A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, which I really liked as well. I think she's a fantastic actress, and in this film I think she's also good as well. The interesting part about this film, you've got this Pete Davidson lookalike that is a different character all the way through the film. It's just a generational thing, his ancestors, and it goes through his bloodline. So the creator of the box basically needs to get killed by Pinhead and the Cenobites for some reason. I don't know why they want to kill him, because the box has already been made now, and it's just this man's family from generation to generation that's leading the charge. And then it goes to 2127 and his family's still there, and it's still the Pete Davidson lookalike, and he's trying to defeat Pinhead once and for all in space. Something I didn't quite understand, we've got 2 characters, Angelique and Jacques, played by Adam Scott, and they're around the beginning of the film in France, and they become bad guys. And then it goes to 1996 and they're still alive. I can understand why Angelique's still alive because she's not quite human, but Jacques, how did he manage to live so long and look so young? They didn't really explain that. Maybe they've got some sort of power, I don't know, but they didn't really explain that in the film. The movie is predominantly set in 1996, the year the movie came out, and after killing Jacques, Angelique wants to get a hold of this box so that she can release Pinhead. I don't know why she wants to release Pinhead. She's doing pretty well without him, but she wants to release him anyway. Pinhead's goal after he is released is he wants to release or create this hell world, or come through into the real world with ease without having to go through that puzzle box, because John, the Pete Davidson lookalike, he's created this building that looks like a big puzzle box. So I think Pinhead wants to utilise that aspect of the building so that he can just come and go as he pleases. We do eventually cut back to the future, no pun intended, and the guy who plays John, who's now Merchant, he's trying to kill Pinhead once and for all, and his crew, I don't know why they do this, but his crew stop him from being able to do that because they don't know what he's trying to do. If only explained to them, listen guys, give me 10 minutes, I'm just going to kill this random Pinhead. If he asked them to give him time, then they probably would have said, yeah, sure, knock yourself out. But they don't give them time to do that, and they accidentally release Pinhead in space in 2027. One cool idea that Merchant had, and I do agree it is a cool idea, and he didn't tell anyone, was the whole ship that he was on, he made it into a puzzle box. So when him and the rest of the crew who survived were able to get away, Pinhead wasn't able to, because he created this outer space puzzle box. So he tricked Pinhead at the end of the day, which was a cool idea and a good way to end the movie, because how are you going to end the movie with Pinhead in space? Well, the best thing to do is to create a puzzle box in space, and that's it. And that defeats Pinhead once and for all and keeps him in space and far away from Earth. And just to be sure that he's not trapped there forever and maybe an alien or a predator comes and takes him, John, aka Merchant, ends up blowing the ship up so that there's no way back for Pinhead. And what makes it even more bizarre is after he blows that ship up, the movie just ends abruptly, and you're like, alright, okay, fine. It was 1996 and they were toying with CGI at the time, and they do use CGI, but there were still some good practical effects in the film. I think Hellraiser and practical effects should come hand in hand because of what we got in the first three movies. But in this one, we had less practical effects, but we still had some good ones, but they were toying with the CGI at this point. The backstory took up 2/3 of the film, and I would usually say that's a bad thing because it leaves you with less time to actually flesh out the rest of the movie where it's supposed to be set. That might be a good thing for this movie because it was set in space, it was set in 2127, so giving us 2/3 of a movie with a backstory was probably welcome. I didn't like the space part of the film, so setting it in modern day 96 and in the past was probably the best option. Overall, guys, I think it was an interesting concept to set it in space, set it in the future, set it in the past, but it just wasn't implemented well. I think the acting was a little bit better, the dialogue and the scripting was better than part 3, but the overall look of the film, it was more cheap. They probably didn't have as big a budget as they did for the first 3 movies. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, I don't know. But acting was a lot better. The storyline was a little bit all over the place. It was a cool concept. I think if they set all of the movie in the past, then I think I would have enjoyed it more. I think setting it in the past, set it in the modern day in the future was a little bit choppy. But I enjoyed more of the past than the present and the future. So if the movie was set solely in the past, maybe I would have enjoyed it more. But it wasn't a terrible film. It's a film that I won't go back and watch again. It was probably that bad that I won't go back and watch it again, but it was still watchable at the end of the day, and that was the most surprising part for me. Other than that, guys, I think at this point in 1996, it seemed like the franchise was going nowhere. They set it in space, and that's obviously the kill for any franchise. So I didn't understand why they continued to churn out more and more movies at this point in time, but they did, and we'll get to them soon. So if you've seen Hellraiser Bloodline, guys, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.